Good morning, welcome back to the channel. It's been a couple of weeks, I've been a bit busy, I keep saying that, but I have actually been a bit busy. And you join me today on a glorious morning on the 6th of November, Saturday the 6th. And it's day after bonfire night, and we've got a really chilly morning here in Kent, and it's nice and peaceful. As you can tell, looking around, I'm in the middle of the woods. This is a particularly unusual part of the woods because this has got some really old pine trees, and there's sort of a grove of them running from one along the edge of the track here on both sides. And I've always wanted to catch a shot of this, and somebody inspired me a couple of weeks ago to actually come up here and try and get this shot, because I'm hoping the sun, which is over my right shoulder, over your left shoulder, is going to creep over the edge of that hill, which is just shading it at the moment, and that sunlight's going to pour into this grove of pine trees here and create some interesting light. I'm not sure when the sun will get that high. I might have to wait a little while, so I'm probably just going to mooch around, take a few sort of scene setting shots and a bit of b-roll and everything that goes with making a video, and keeping my fingers crossed that we do actually get some shafts of sunlight, because if it happens it's going to look really spectacular. These beautiful sort of tall pine trees, you've seen one just behind me here and one on the other side there, they're really quite, I don't know how old they are, but they're quite large. They're probably about 3 to 4 feet in diameter at the trunk, some of them larger, and they're really gnarly and they've got some beautiful colour, and I'm hoping the sun will bring that out. So bear with me and let's see how we get on with this little exercise for today. Well, I should have mentioned the colours here are absolutely glorious, absolutely glorious. The sun is peaking just over the edge of that little hill that I mentioned. I'm not sure, there's a bit of medium level cloud which is making it quite diffuse, so I'm not sure it's going to work for me quite as I'd hoped. But as is always the way, if you wander around you often see other things you can take shots of. So while I'm waiting for that sun to make its way over the horizon properly and light up hopefully what I want it to light up, I've noticed there's a beautiful tree just behind you. Now, I don't know if you can make that out, he said, putting the tripod down, but there against the sunlight, so that's a high dynamic range shot, there's a beautiful V of a really big old oak tree and some lovely backlit colours on the leaves in this area here, which probably isn't showing up on the little Osmo screen very well, but I think the FujiFilm will get a good shot from that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the camera up, and I think I'm going to be quite tight on that. I don't want to include too much because it'll be too busy. My main interest in that shot is it's the way the trunk of the tree, spin you around again, the trunk of the tree is split, and on this side here we've got this beautiful lower branch coming out with a load of backlit leaves which are nicely autumnal in colour. So I'm going to set the camera up and I'll try that shot and I'll come back to you in a second. Well, I've got the shot framed up here and I'm liking what I'm seeing on the back of the camera, but as I mentioned earlier, because the sun's just over the horizon there, there's a really bright sky. I'm not going to be able to pull any of the sky back because the dynamic range is just too much. So what I'm accepting is that blow the sky out completely and just concentrate on bringing out the detail in this lower branch and trunk of the tree in front of us here. I've got the tree on the sort of third in from the right, or at least just slightly past that point, and it's branching into two pieces as I mentioned, then it's forking into another piece here, and I like this lower branch coming in with all this colour on it. So that's the shot that I'm going to take. So let's ISO 100, 1.3 of a second, and f16 should get all the depth of field we need for this shot. So let's take that one. 2 second timer, we need that because I've got my hand on the camera and that will have a difference. There we go. So let's focus on the trunk itself. So as I say, I'm going to take that shot now, and the blinkies are showing me the sky is blown out, but I expect that. I've actually gone completely to the end of the exposure compensation range. I still can't pull the sky back. So I'll take that one shot, 2 seconds. That's taken that one, and let's have a look on the back, just check that we've got the detail we expect. There's no wind here at all this morning, which is helping, because I think at a fraction of a second, sort of 1/1.3 of a second, that it's quite a slow shutter speed. I'm going to go into manual mode And I'm going to expose for the sky, which will mean I need to bring the shutter speed right up. 200th of a second. Right, okay, so I've now got a nice moody sky, because there are some clouds, as I mentioned, some mid-level cloud. As I say, I don't know if it'll show up on this Osmo because it doesn't have quite the best lens in the world and dynamic range, but that area here, which is on my frame, this area here, I've now got that showing as really quite exposed correctly. I'm still at f16 and I'm going to make an attempt to exposure blend these, so let's get that shot. That's a 200th of a second, so I'm not confident these will blend together because I've had problems blending high dynamic range images because for some reason it can't line them up properly. Looking on the back of the camera, yeah, I've got all the detail I expect to have, but I think I'll just bring the exposure level up and create a second shot that's got only some of the sky blown out. So I'll get that one as well. That's the wonder of digital cameras, it doesn't cost anything, there's no film, so I can take as many images as I want. Yes, as I say, I can take as many images as I want and not worry about really what it's costing at the end of the day. If this was film, you'd be treating it in a completely different way, but it isn't film, so I'm using what we've got. And it's lovely and peaceful up here, it really is. But I'm not sure that sun is going to come high enough in the sky really to clear the bank of trees that's on this side of the bank. Well, the trees on the bank sticking up above the top of the bank. I'm not sure it's going to clear that quite as I want, but you can only wait and see, and it's better to be out in the sun, or at least out in the nice weather. Oh, there's some nice light happening over there now. It's lighting some trees up. I'll spin you around, but it's not lighting quite up what I'm expecting, but it might do. Just over here you can see the sun starting to hit the edges of the trees on this part of the valley, but that's not quite. We've got a little bit of light on that one there and this one, but what I'm hoping for is the sun to come round that way a bit further, or at least to get higher in the sky so it lights up more of these. But I think I'll actually try and set up for a shot of these. Well, I've got set up for a shot here with 3 trees that I'll show you. One of them isn't in the sunlight, this nearest one. The other 2 are just being lit up, so I'm going to have to take this shot pretty quickly because I've got this nice dappled light on the 2 other trees and it's just coming onto this nearer tree. So I'm going to get that shot because things are changing really quickly. 2-second timer, focused on the near tree here, and because I've got quite a narrow aperture, let's go down to f26. Right, I don't know if you can see that on the screen there. There's a blue line on the focus line here. I can't press both buttons at the same time, which makes it difficult. Can you see just there? There's a blue line. That's showing me the depth of field, and it's saying virtually to infinity from 2 meters should be completely in focus. So I've got f26, ISO 100, 2-second timer. There's no motion anywhere, which is just as well with a 2-second timer. So I'm going to take that shot now, and it's just taking it. 2 seconds, that's a long time. But it is a very big depth of field I wanted to get, because I want to get both, well, all 3 of those trees. The nearest one's about 3.5–4 meters away, and the other 2 are maybe 8 meters and about 16–18 meters away. So I think I've got that shot. That really looks quite nice and moody. I'll take another one because the light is changing quite rapidly. and I'll decide which one's best when I get back home and process them. But that's looking promising. Now the alley of trees, if you turn you around you can just see it. They're all going, there's two sides. One side has got only a single row of pine trees, the other side's got 2 rows of pine trees. There's a second row where that one's lit up in the background just there, and then there's this nearer row that just skirts the edge of the track there. I'm going to put the long lens on because I want to pull all of that closer and foreshorten the distance a bit. As you can see, there is a little bit of light creeping across, but it's not direct sunlight, it's just normal lighting. It's not ideal, it's not quite what I was hoping. As I said, it's not really quite what I was hoping for, but I'm going to get that shot anyway. And I think there's somebody walking in the distance, so they'll be in the shot too. So, oh well, never mind. So let's change the lens and let's see if we can get a shot out of this one. Okay, well, we've got the 100 to 200 on, and I've currently got it at 120, approximately 120 millimeters, which is about 100 in full frame terms. So it's not that telephoto, but what I've framed up here is looking quite nice actually. What I've done is I've got a little bit of this green, well I think they're nettles actually, and a couple of other things, out framing the bottom of the picture here, and it's out of focus because I'm going to have to focus stack this. This lens will not get, even at f32, it won't get that far distant point, which is effectively infinity for this lens, which would be about 150 meters away down there in the distance. And I've got this beautiful dark scene here with the light just peeping through across the track. As I said, it's not quite what I was hoping for, but we have to make the most of what you've got. And if Aussie gets out of the way, I've got the 2/3 here. The actual distant point of the track is in just nearly on the 2/3 line. It should be about there, but I can't quite frame it exactly as I want it. And I've got trees on both sides framing, so there's no light creeping in from either side, which emphasizes the effect of the tunnel. Now that's what I'm hoping to get, is this is a tunnel as far as I can see it here now. And I'm going to take the second shot, which is focused on the far distant trees right at the end of the tunnel. I'll get that one, and then we'll come back, focus on, oh that's a long exposure. It's a good job these trees are not moving. That is 4-second exposure. Now I'm going to focus on this nearest piece of nettle here in the foreground, and I think for completeness I'm going to take a couple of intermediate focus points as well, just so that I've got it when I get back home. So let's pull that into focus, which is this sort of foreground here, and I think I'll take another one which is going to pull the mid ground about there into focus, because the beauty of this camera is it pulls out so much detail. The images are stunning, and to actually throw any of that detail away, as I said, to throw any of that detail away by having things out of focus really is a travesty. So as long as some part of the frame is in focus, we're good to go. So that's that shot. I'm hoping they'll blend together later in Lightroom, and more about Lightroom when we get home, because I've got the latest version and I love the masking capabilities. I don't know if you guys have actually tried or downloaded the latest version, but if you haven't, do. It's really an improvement. Lightroom now is almost completely unnecessary to go across to Photoshop, because the masking is just so good now. It's the thing that Lightroom's always needed, and now it's got it. I'm so pleased. It's really making editing a lot easier and much more fun. Anyway, more of that later. Well, the light has failed me. It hasn't come over the edge of the hill, and the cloud levels are building up, so what light there is much more diffuse than it was when I first got here. So these things happen, you have to make the most of it. It's still a really pleasant place to be, and I'm going to see what other shots I can get here. As I've just finished that avenue of trees, I'm going to walk to the other end and see if the light looks different. Well, it will look different, but how different it looks from the other end. And there might be a nice shot there as well. So This has been an exercise probably on the wrong day, but you don't know until you try. It's no point looking at other people's pictures, which, as I mentioned earlier, was the reason I was inspired to come up here, because one of the neighbours had taken a shot and put it up on our local Facebook page, and I thought that's going to look stunning if I can get there and actually take a shot with that lighting, but you don't know. You've got to try. So that's what I'm doing, and I'll still come away with some images which I'm more than happy with, and that's really all it's about. Oz is having a grand time, having a sniff around. In fact, I've just lost him. Where's he gone? Oh, there he is. He doesn't go very far. He's a good boy. But yeah, so let's see what else we can get. Well, I've just moved from where I took that shot up the aisle, or the alley of trees here, whatever you want to call it, grove, I'm not sure if that's the correct term, tree-lined track, and turn around and look back at the tree. The first one I took pictures of, the oak tree with the split in, which is actually behind you guys, and I was taken by this shot, and I think this really is quite pleasant. You can't really see it, but between this pine tree and this pine tree, we've got that split oak tree in the distance with the backlit leaves around it. This little Osmo probably won't show it, but if I point you at the back of the camera here, you can see what I've done is I've used the two trees, come on, it's gone off again, one tree here, one tree there, framing both sides, and I've got the oak tree in the middle. Obviously the flashing blinkies are showing that we've got blown out sky there, which is inevitable, but I rather like this area of the picture here. I think there's some beautiful colour here, and that's sort of counterposed or juxtaposed with the darkness of the trunk. So I'm going to get that shot, and I'm going to have to take two shots here. The first one will be with the trunks on either side in focus, so I'll have to take now 3 shots effectively, because there's a big distance between them. I'm at 16 and we're a 7th of a second. I'll take the ISO back down because nothing's moving, to 100, so 1 second exposure. So the first one is the right hand tree trunk in focus, and that didn't look in focus to me, so I think I might have to do that manually. Yes, it can't quite work out where that tree trunk is, so I've focused that manually, as you just saw. So that tree trunk beautifully in focus. I'll then move the focus point across to the other side and manually focus on the second tree trunk. And there's quite a big difference in where the focal points are, so that's beautifully in focus now. So we'll get that shot, and then we'll get the trunk of the tree in the centre and all of the foliage around it in focus. Go away, don't want that display, want that display, don't want that display, go away. Right, there we are, and let's focus on the tree in the distance, and that's pretty damn good. So between those 3 shots, I think that will actually make quite a nice focus blended image. Maybe the middle ground might be a bit soft, so I might actually take another shot with the middle ground, which in this case is that sort of area of from this little hump here, these nettles, that's not in the shot, but all of the green leading up to the tree. I think I'll need to actually put a focus point down there just to get that equally nice and sharp. And I'm going to take the aperture even lower. I've gone to f/26 to get as much depth of field, and I don't know if you can see that on the back of the camera, but the focal point's moving quite noticeably. So let's get that little bit of branch in focus first, and then I'll move a little bit further into the grass. And that should be about it. It's a shame this little Osmo doesn't show the detail, because that backlighting, spin around, the backlighting of the leaves on either side of the trunk there is really startling compared to the dark trunk of the tree and the two framing it, and I think that's going to really make quite a pleasant picture. There it is on the back of the camera. That's one of the shots. Let's just get rid of the information display. So we've got the two trees on either side. We've got all of that beautiful yellow and orange of those leaves, which I think will look really, I think that'll look really quite nice actually. So I'm probably going to wind up here now and go back home. I might take a couple more shots and put them up at the end of the video, but I'm quite pleased with what I've got so far. As I mentioned, the light didn't turn out quite as I was hoping, but you always make the best of it. At least we're out. That's the main thing. I was stuck behind a computer at home all day working, and it's really just nice to be out in the peaceful and quiet. So let's see how that all goes. I'll get back home and see what comes from the images, and I'll pop them up at different points in the video as I've taken them. You'll see them. And thanks very much for watching, and please give the channel a thumbs up. It does help. I'm nearly at 1,000 subscribers now. It's been, when did I start? I think it was beginning or end of December, beginning of January 2019, 2020, when I was in the Lake District with Chris Sale, and we did my first video up there, him and I. He helped, and since then we're nearly at 180 videos down the line, and you guys seem to like them because they get well watched, and I quite like making them. It gets me out, it gives me a reason to take pictures other than just taking the pictures. The process of producing the video is great fun. I like it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you on the next video.